Hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So yeah, so let's get started. So so we started discussing of virtual machine. We started discussing of virtual machines, which is equivalent to AWS EC2 service, which is equivalent to AWS EC2 service. And before that, we discussed about subscriptions, tenant, and resource groups. We discussed about this. And then we started discussing about virtual machines. Virtual machine is a service which is equal to AWS EC2. In AWS, to create virtual machines, we will use EC2 service and we will call it as instances. We will call it as instances. So once we create an Azure account and we have a tenant, and inside the tenant, we will get subscriptions. Each and every subscription is an isolated for billing. And inside that, to group the resources, we will create a resource groups. And after that, we'll create virtual machines. And we know what is virtual machine is. We know what is virtual machine is. Instead of we maintaining any hardware or we maintaining a hardware, a computer, if someone else is maintaining it, we will call it as a virtual machine. Because it won't be physically with you, it is virtually with you, and on behalf of you, someone will maintain it. The same virtual machine to create in AWS, we will use EC2 service. So in AWS, the steps to create virtual machine is selecting of AMI. So this is in AWS, basically. We will select AMI, which is nothing but an operating system, and instance type, security group, all other key pairs, whatever it is. We will use all these steps to create virtual machine in AWS. And even in AWS, you also have a step called security group. Okay. So today we will see, we already seen how to create a virtual machine in Azure in the last class. We will try to create that virtual machine again, and as well as we will see about the equivalent to the security group in Azure. Okay. So generally, in AWS, we will navigate to the EC2 service. We will select the AMI, and we will select the instance type, and we will select the key pair, security groups, and VPC, and storage, whatever it is. We will select all these steps. In Azure, we will call it as Azure Virtual Machines. In Azure, we will call it as Azure Virtual Machines. Azure Virtual Machines. And here also, the way that how you navigate to EC2, we will navigate to the virtual machines. We will navigate to the virtual machines. And here, once you started creating of your virtual machine, it will be divided into certain stages, certain steps. The first one is the basic one. You have to start with the basic. There, we won't have any different sections, like sections in the sense, we all have like steps. Like first you will select the name of the instance, and then you will be giving the AMI, and then you'll be scrolling down and you'll be giving the key pair, and under the network settings, you'll be giving the security group, and and there will be an advanced settings section, network settings section, and all right. Here, the name of the sections are slightly differ. Uh, we will call it as a basic settings, the first one. Inside the basic settings, you'll give the subscription. In which subscription that you should create virtual machine. If someone asks you the differences of creating of instance and differences of creating of a virtual machine is, there you'll select AMI, instance type, key pair, security group, under the network settings and advanced details and all right. Here you will navigate to the Azure virtual machines, and you will select, you will have the basic settings first, and inside the basic settings, you'll be selecting the subscription. And you know what is the subscription? And you can say that in our organization that we have different subscriptions for each and every application or each and every environment. So in which subscription we want to create a virtual machine. So you will be selecting that particular subscription here. So you'll be selecting the subscription. So after that, the other one is resource group. In the basic settings, you'll have this step, resource group. So these two steps are mandatory to create any resource in Azure. You have to select the subscription, you have to select the resource group. Okay, because you'll be grouping the resources that which you created. So later on, if you want to check what are the resources that I created in my account, you can simply navigate to that particular resource group, and there you can able to find all the resources that which you created, so that it will be easy to track, and at the same time, it will be easy to delete as well. And the name of the instance will also be part of our basic settings only. And the other one is region. So in Azure, you will be selecting the region while you are creating a resource. But in AWS, if you remember, the moment once you logged in into your account, top right side, you will be setting up a region, in which region that you want to deploy your resources. But in Azure, not like that. In Azure, what you'll do is you will be selecting the region while creating a resource. In AWS, what will happen if you select Mumbai region on the top right, you can able to see only the resources that which you created in Mumbai region. If you want to look at the other region, top right side, you have to change the region again. But in Azure, not like that. While you are creating a resource, you will be selecting the region. Normally, when you logged into the console, you can able to see all the resources which you created across different regions. Because if you click on that particular resource which you created, you can able to find that in which region that you created it. And after the region, availability zone is common. In AWS also, you'll select the availability zone, right? And here also, you will call it as a image, the operating system. You'll call it as a image. Let's select it as a image, enter and select image. So this is also common. And there you'll call it as an instance type, the RAM, CPU, memory, right? Here you'll call it as a size, like a VM size. I can say that it is a VM size. Okay. So in AWS, AMI, instance type, key pair, security group, VPC under network settings, storage under storage, advanced details like for user data and all. But here, the first part is basic. In basic settings, You'll be selecting the name of the virtual machine, in which subscription that which you want to create, in which resource group that you want to create, in which region that you want to create, in which availability zone that you want to create, and image of that virtual machine and size of that virtual machine. Okay. And again, within this basic settings, you'll also have these steps like username and password. You'll be having this. In AWS, you can't specify username. So the default username will depends on the AMI. If it is an Amazon Linux, the default username is EC2-user. For password, you have to download the key pair, you have to upload the key pair, and you have to log in it first, and then you can enable a password and you can set up a password. But in Azure, not like that. While creating virtual machine itself, you can specify the username and password. You can specify the username and password. Okay, with the same username and password, you can log in into your virtual machines. So this is about a basic settings, and you will have the networking step as well. In the networking step, yeah, the same like in AWS, you will select the VPC, right? Here, instead of calling it as a VPC, you will call it as a VNet. In AWS, we call it as a VPC. Here, we call it as a VNet. And in AWS, we call it as a security group, right? Here, we call it as a NSG, Network Security Group. You'll call it as a network security. So other than that, you'll have a storage section separately and all, but these are the mandatory because in other steps, the details we can leave it default, but in these steps, definitely you have to select and you have to create a virtual machine, and you can log in into the virtual machine. Okay, now let's see these steps in the Azure portal. Let's log in into the Azure portal, and we will create a machine. Okay, so yes or no, guys, are you all clear? Can you just
Yes,
drop
sir.
in the chat box? So you don't need to unmute and talk. You can just drop me in the chat box. Yes or no. Okay, if you have any question, you can put it in the chat box, or else then you can unmute and you can talk. Deepthi, Vasu, Shrikant, Tarun, Rushendra, Bhavani. Are you all good? Understood? Okay. So you all have the AWS knowledge, right? Is there anyone who doesn't have the AWS knowledge? Is there anyone in our class who doesn't have the AWS knowledge? See, even though if you are not having the AWS knowledge, that is fine. No issues in it. Okay. If you have, that is fine. If you do not have, you can also make a note of those terminologies as well. I was trying to write the terminologies here, right? In AWS, what we call, and in Azure, what we call. So, so better to note down those names so that in future, if you learn AWS, so it will be easy for you to understand that AWS as well. Okay, great. So we'll go back, and this is our Azure portal, and uh, so yeah, so simply left side three lines are to explore services which we have, and people who do not have AWS knowledge. So let me just show you that AWS account as well. So AWS management console, sign in. Sign in as root account. In Swami. So done. So this is the AWS account looks, and this is how Azure account will looks. Okay. So just for knowledge, I'm showing AWS for people who doesn't know AWS, and people who already knows AWS, that is absolutely fine. Okay, you can just revise it. So just having an idea of these two consoles will be better to get an opportunity so that you can add in your resumes that you have the both knowledge on AWS and Azure. Okay. See, if you see here in AWS top right side, you're selecting the region. If I change the region, I cannot see the resources which we created in the Mumbai region. But in Azure, you will not have anything to select a region. You'll be selecting the region while creating a resource groups or any other. Let me delete. See, these are the resources which I created in this resource group. If I click on delete, see, these are the dependent resources need to be deleted to delete the resource group. So in our previous class, I've created the virtual machine, right? So I created one public IP address and I created one network security group, network interface, VNet and all. See, I created all those resources in this particular resource group. See, I'm trying to delete everything. I'm trying to delete everything. So I don't need to delete it separately of each and every resource. So deleting the resource group and its dependent resources. Yes, delete it. Deleting the resource group. If you can see the track here in the notifications, in the right side notifications. See, around we supposed to have 16,700 or something. So I forgot to delete the resources in our previous class, which I created. I think like on Friday that I created it. Saturday and Sunday, I left it like this so that my credits goes down. It went from 16,700 to 16,100. You don't do that mistake. Please delete once you practiced. Okay. I forgot on that day because of we do not have a proper network. So I have not deleted it. Okay. So let me refresh it. See, virtual machine got deleted. The other resources will also get deleted. See, deleting 4 to 2. If I refresh it again, these are getting deleted. Let's wait. Once this is deleted, then we'll create one new resource group and we'll create one new virtual machine and I'll show you how to log into that virtual machine. Refresh it. Yeah, everything is deleted. Now the resource group will get deleted. If you click on this, use this, go to the resource group. Yeah. So now the resource group got deleted. Resource group is not found. So it means the resource group is also deleted. If I refresh the browser again, if I navigate to resource groups, yeah, so the resource group is not there. Let's create a new resource group and it's a free trial subscription and RG. I'm just naming it as an RG and let's put it in Central India. Okay. And review and create. See everything it will not be like very speed the way how you create in AWS EC2 or AWS services. Everything there will be a validation, and that validation need to be passed. And when you click on create, it shows like validating here, okay, in the bottom, and it creates. Okay. So now the resource group is created. Now let's go to virtual machines, Azure virtual machines. Yeah, let's create Azure virtual machine. Okay, see the moment once I create it, it will load and it will open this. So I told you about the basic step, right? So you'll be selecting the subscription, and I'm creating in the resource group RG, and the name, let's say VM1, and scroll down. Central India, leaving it. Availability zone. So you can put or no infrastructure redundancy. It means it is fine that wherever I creates. And image. So here is an operating system. Like if I want Windows, for example, if I search for Windows, you can see the Windows here. Or else if I search for Ubuntu, so automatically you can see the Ubuntu here. And if you want to create a spot instance, like in AWS, we have a different instance types, right? On-demand instances, reserved instances, spot instances. So on-demand instances means the price of the instance will be hourly basis. Reserved means because of reserving the instance, you can reduce your monthly bill. And spot instances means so it is very cheap when compared to the on-demand and reserved instances. So, but the spot instances, the problem with the spot instances is it can be terminated at any point of time because whatever the hardware that they have, is free. So that will be allocated to us. If someone is bidding or someone is giving more price than us, so basically the spot instances will go with them. So you can see the maximum price that you want to pay per hour. So what will happen is, so the same concept, whatever we have the spot instances concept in Azure, we also have the same concept in AWS as well. So people who are not aware of AWS spot instances, let me explain you for that. See what will happen is, in instances, we have different types like on demand, reserved, spot. So on demand instances prices will be hourly basis. So whenever you want, you can create an instance. Whenever you don't want, you can delete the instance. So the charges for on-demand instances will be hourly basis. Whenever you want, you can create the instance. Whenever you don't want, you can delete the instance. So the moment when you create an instance, the billing will get started. The moment when you delete the instance, the billing will get stopped. Reserved instances, you can reserve the instance for 1 year or 2 years or 3 years, whatever it is based on your service provider. So obviously what will happen when you reserve the instance, because of reserving the instance, the price of that instance can be reduced. But the problem with the reserved instance is if you reserve it for 1 year and if you use it for 1 month, and if you think that, okay, if I've used it for 1 month and then I don't want to use for another 11 months, it doesn't matter. You have to pay for it. Even though if you use for 1 hour or 1 month or 2 months or 3 months, it doesn't matter. You have to pay for it. So that is called reserved instances. Coming to the spot instances are like bidding. So what will happen is, see, whenever you create any virtual machine in any cloud platform, so what happen in the backend, they will allocate some hardware for us, right? It can be anything, any service or anything. Whenever you create something virtually in your AWS account, in AWS data center or in Azure data center or in GCP data center, they will allocate some hardware for us. So when they have some free hardware, when they have some empty hardware, which they were not using, so what they do is they will give that hardware for the people who bids more price. So generally for these spot instances, the price will be very cheap when compared to on-demand and reserved instances. So people, what they do is they will bid some price like for per 1 hour. If I bid like 0.3 cents, I'll get that hardware and I mean, they'll allocate that hardware for me when I create a virtual machine. And tomorrow, if someone bids per hour 4 cents, so my instance will be terminated here and my hardware will be allocated to the person who bids more amount than me. So that is called a spot instance. And you might have a question that if we do not have guarantee of the instance will be within us or terminated at any point of time, then why should we use it? What is the use of it? So what they do is in the organizations, when they want to test any of the applications, which requires more and more configuration and for testing purpose, and they'll just test it and they'll delete it. And even though if they deleted it automatically, nothing will happen to them. So if in that case, what they do is they'll go with the spot instances, because in that case, if they go with the on-demand instances, when they have a huge configuration, they have to spend a spot instance. Coming back, so I don't want to create any spot instances. Simply, I'll go with this. And yeah, so here, as I said, in AWS, we will be giving the key pair, and that with that key pair, we will be logging into the machine, right? But here, we can set up a password. So let me put it as Azure as a username, and let me put some password. So better we will create and use itself. Last time I think we got some error. And yeah, so password, username, everything is selected. Security group, yeah, we will see about it. Okay. So click on next, and it is just a disk and networking. So it is creating. So basic security group and public IP, and yeah, one new VNet which is getting created, a new subnet is getting created, a new public IP is getting created. And yeah, delete the public IP once I delete this. So let me talk about this. So we have a concept called static IP. We have a concept called static IP in AWS. We have a concept called static IP in AWS. And we won't call it as a static IP, we will call it as a elastic IP in AWS. So I think people who are aware of AWS, they might know about uh, elastic IP concept, right? Yes or no, guys? You all know that elastic IP concept, right? Yes or no? Anyone having any idea on this elastic IP concept? Can you put some message on the chat box? Did you remember that elastic IP concept? People who already completed the AWS course. So whenever you create any instance or any virtual machine, so automatically a public IP will get assigned to your virtual machine. Okay. So that IP address will always keep on changes. So in real time, if the IP address is getting changes all the time, so there will be a problem. So that what we'll do in AWS, we will navigate to the elastic IP. We will create an elastic IP and we will attach that elastic IP to the virtual machine. Okay. So here also same. Instead of we doing it, automatically it is creating a public IP and it is attaching to our VM. Okay, we don't need to again create separately. It automatically creates one static IP and it attaches to the VM. And let's say if I uncheck this, the VM will get deleted, but the public IP, the static IP will not get deleted. In future, when I create any new virtual machine, I can also attach that IP address to my new virtual machine as well. But instead of doing that, what I'm doing is simply I was deleting my static IP when I create deleted the VM. Then scroll down, review and create. So once the validation is done, if there is any validation is wrong in any of the step, it shows here and we need to go back and we need to modify it again. So once the review is completed, we should be able to create an instance. Yeah, it is getting reviewed. It will take a couple of seconds. Let's see what is failed in the basic step. We have to wait until the complete validation. Let's see what is the error here. Basic option. Okay. The subscription may not be eligible to deploy the VMs in certain sizes. Uh, let's see. Ubuntu and instance type. So all sizes, this is the basic size. Let's see. We selected the Ubuntu. We'll try to create now. Okay. One second. Azure login. Apple sign. I think the Azure portal itself is slow because see, so we do not have any issue with this AWS portal. So we can click on EC2 here. It is working as expected, but the Azure portal is little slow. Let's log in it again. Let's select again resource group. One Central India. Availability zone, no infrastructure redundancy required. Username, Azure, password. Click on next. Next. View on create. See basic. Let's create resource group also in the East US. Go to the resource groups. Create resource group. RG East US. Review on create. Create. Go to the virtual machines, Azure virtual machine, East VM1, no infrastructure redundancy, password, Azure, SANTHOSH@123, SANTHOSH@123, disks, networking, okay, review and create. Okay, so now the VM is getting created. So we do not have any other option. We have to wait until the validation is done. Okay. But in AWS, it won't take much time. See, if you click here, if I click on launch instance, see if I click on instance one, if I click on Amazon Linux, like if I select some key pair or whatever it is, if I click on launch instance, see the instance is created here. Okay. But in Azure, so there will be a validation which is running in the backend. So you can see that validation here in the notifications. You have to wait until the validation is done. See here we created an instance. If I click on refresh, see here, I have the instance, right? But in Azure, definitely it will take more time. So you have to wait. Yeah. Now click on create. So first, all these steps validation will be done. And the moment once you click on create, it again runs the final validation. And once the final validation is done, so then it will create a VM. But in Azure, in AWS, it's not like that. So it is very easy to create and delete the instance in seconds. So validations are passed. It is creating a virtual machine. So here, this in this notifications, you can able to see all the uh, deployment in progresses. Here it is creating a virtual machine. So it will take more time, but generally it won't take this much of time. So maybe the Azure portal is little slow. Sometimes it will happen. And sometimes it will happen for AWS also. Maybe the same thing happened to the Azure here. So we have to wait until the creating of creation of this machine. So we do not have any shortcuts to make it done. So we have to wait until this validation is done. We have to wait until the deployment is done. Okay. So you can see the top right side, the deployment is in progress. Deploying to resource group, RG East EUS. This is the resource group which I created. Okay. So the deployment is being done. So we do not have any other option. We have to wait until the deployment is done. Okay. So it will take time. So generally it won't take this much of time. So maybe the Azure portal is little slow. So that is the reason it is taking more time now. Okay. In your case also, if it is taking time, so you can't do anything, just wait until it gets created. So it is not an internet issue because we have already created an instance in AWS, right? It took just a few seconds for us to create an instance in AWS. But in virtual machine, generally it takes more time, but I think because of this Azure portal is little slow, it is taking a few more minutes. Yeah, now the deployment is succeeded into the resource group RG East US. I think the virtual machine is created. Yeah. So go click on the virtual machines here. Click on the virtual machines. Yeah. So you can see this. This is the virtual machine which we created. And for example, in AWS instance, if you select the instance, you can able to find all the details here, right? Similarly here, you can find all the details here. No, the delay will not depends on the region because uh, from anywhere in India, at any region, you can able to create the resources without any latency. So it is not depends on the region which you selected. Okay. Because see, all we work for a different client itself. We will not work for only Indian clients, right? So every time we work for different clients which are located in US or somewhere. So we will deploy the infrastructure from here itself into that particular region. So it won't show any delay. So here you can see this is the details of the virtual machine that which you created. And if you want to log into this virtual machine, so the public IP address is there. The public IP address is there. So this is the public IP address. So the way how you logged in using of a putty, you can also log in using of a putty or from any of the terminal. Let's say, for example, if I wanted to log in from the terminal, uh, let's say, mm, yeah. So if this is my terminal. So clear SSH 172.191.9.81. This second. So let's say, for example, my username is Azure, right? Azure at the rate. Yeah. So now you can see I logged into the Azure VM. You can see this is a Azure VM. So from here, you can able to execute the whatever the commands that you want. Okay. So since I'm using this Mac, I connected from the terminal. So you all can connect from the putty. You know how to use putty, right? Simply just opening the putty. I don't think like putty is having in my laptop. See if it is working. Yeah. So putty means simply what you'll do if you want to log in from the putty. So this is how it looks, right? Simply, you'll go back, copy the IP address 172.191.9.81. 9.81. Simply, you don't need to load the PPK file because we directly give the username and password when we create, right? Simply, I'm going to click on open, accept. It is asking for the username. I'm giving Azure as a username and password SANTHOSH@123. Done. So I logged in. So from here, whatever I want to do, I can able to do this. Clear, everyone? So this is how you'll create a Linux machine. Again, if you want to create a Windows machine, we will see that in the next class. So, but the process will be the same. Simply, let me read the question. So if you, yeah. So simply, if you want to click on create a Windows machine, you'll create a Windows machine. So since the portal is little slow, it is not showing up the page. So instead of selecting the Ubuntu image, we will select the Windows image. Okay. So if you want to delete this instance, so let me refresh the browser once. So you can see the option here, right? Delete option. So you have to select the instance and you have to you can delete the instance. If you're using the Mac OS or something, if you want to log into your Linux instance, you don't need to install the putty. You can directly go to the terminal and then you can use the SSH command. SSH space Azure at the rate public IP address of that instance. Okay. If you want to use a putty, the process will be the same, but you won't load the PPK file. If you are giving the key pair, then you load the key pair. If you're not giving the key pair, simply you can give the public IP address and you can log into that particular machine by giving the username and password. Clear, guys? Any questions? So we created a resource group, we created a virtual machine, and we logged into the virtual machine. While we are creating a virtual machine, it took little more time, like 3 minutes or 5 minutes for us. So in your case also, it might take if the Azure portal is slow. If not, also it takes some time. It's not like AWS EC2 instance. The moment once you click on create instance, immediately it won't create. First it will validate, then it will be final validation, then it will be a deployment in progress, and then deployment will be get completed. It takes some time. Okay. So any doubts? Bhavani, Deepti, Vasu, Jankiram, Shrikant, Rushedra, Tarun. Yes or no? Can you put it in the chat box? Are you all clear? Creating of a machine and login into that particular machine. Okay. So to delete this, simply select this and click on delete here and apply force delete and give delete here and click on delete. See again, the command will get executed and again it will be in progress and then it will be completed. It takes a time. So we need some patience while we are working with an Azure. It's not like AWS. Every deployment will take some time. Whenever you hit some command here, like whenever you hit something here, so in the backend, the command will be get executed or script will get executed and that will be in progress and then it will be completed. Okay, great then. So in the next class, we'll see about creating of a Windows machine and if time permits, then we'll go to the security group as well. Okay. Great. So we'll meet tomorrow again. Okay. See you guys. So see you tomorrow again. So if anyone having any questions, they can stay back and they can ask, or they can leave. So you can leave if you do not have any doubts. If you have any questions, you can stay back and you can ask. Okay.